Thank you so much, Tiffany. Good afternoon. Vanessa, welcome. It's so good to see you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank
Very
you for
excited.
joining us. We all love NASA. I think it's been 13 years, right, that NASA has been selected as the best place to work in the federal government?
Yes,
Yeah. So
And
you're
we
here.
recently just announced being selected as the recipient this year as well.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Well, thank
Congratulations. Well, we're so excited to talk to you today, and I know we have a lot of topics to present. So let's just jump into it. So the first topic, there's been a lot of renewed interest in Mars exploration, right? Can you help us understand, what is the administration thinking about Mars? What are their plans?
Well, yeah, JR, it's exciting time, I believe, in space writ large, all of space. And especially right now, we are looking at the priorities that we're getting from the new administration. The focus being on going to the moon, going to Mars with humans. And the budget cycle is just now beginning and coming out, and we're understanding what the priorities are selected to be. For Mars, of the budget itself, there is an additional $1 billion of new investment for technologies to go to Mars. Most of that with a focus of what is it going to take for humans to get to Mars. We've been working, as you know, for some time with the Artemis missions of Moon and Mars, but this will give additional emphasis on what it means for us to go to Mars. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited that we will be getting a new administrator very soon. Jarek Isaacman has been identified as the nominee. He's gone through his initial confirmation nomination discussions with the committee, and we're hopeful that he'll be voted on very soon by the entire Senate. And I think he has expressed, his commitment to those priorities as well.
That's really encouraging to hear, and we enthusiastically welcome the new administrator to visit with us as well.
Yeah.
You talked about human exploration, the fact that we are on this path to Moon and Mars. Can you help us understand NASA's view of the humans in human exploration?
Oh, well, since I hail from the Johnson Space Center, one of the things at Johnson, our main focus is on human exploration. And having over 60 years of experience, first with Apollo, then building with the space shuttle, space station, and so we have the fundamentals that we've been learning about the human body, what it experiences, but we're also have been looking at what does it take for a human to actually travel to Mars. And what does it take for us to be prepared for such a lengthy mission? The International Space Station is an analog. And what we're learning on the International Space Station, some of our missions are planned as 6-month missions. We have some that we go into it knowing that they're going to be lengthy. We've had at least 2 missions that have been over a year long. And so we're learning about the body, what we need to be preparing for. Additionally, using the International Space Station as an analog for technology and being able to test out your environmental systems, those things that we could potentially try to study and simulate on the ground, but we know that it's a difference when we go into space. And so we have been learning those things, and then we have been planning and working towards, with our architectures, what does it require for us in terms of the requirements for not just the human, but all of the systems that we have to take when we go on these extended trips for extended durations.
Actually, you beat me to it. I was going to ask you about the tech. I'm a tech guy. So we're thinking about those future missions. Can you provide some insight to the relationship between human exploration and the robotics and the science. What role does that play?
Yeah, so right now, one of the things that we've been looking at, and I'm not going to steal all of his thunder because Jake Bleacher is going to come up after me and he's going to talk about the architecture, but how do you have the humans and the robots working together? We know that together that we'll be able to accomplish more, and so we're putting those into our plans. But actively, right now, we're looking at robotic missions. We already have robotic missions that we have sent commercially to the moon. And so as we're continuing to do those types of missions, and with our first Artemis missions and sending our humans, and then we'll be able to robotically set up habitats. We'll be able to robotically have the robots go out and do excavations while the humans are preparing and getting things ready for further exploration. We've looked at what does it take for us to be able to just do these missions robotically, but to have the human then to be there, especially if you're at Mars, and you have a time delay. You're not going to be waiting for all of these things to go back and forth. With the human's mind, you're going to be able to actually do things quicker. And so putting and pairing the two together to actually extend the capabilities that we have are one of the big things that we've been thinking about. And we can simulate that here on Earth, but again, we can also do that, with the other platforms that we have as well.
You mentioned Artemis. So in this audience and those watching, many of us are space enthusiasts. But for those who are watching who may not have been plugged in, have not been following all the missions, can you tell us a little bit about Artemis, those programs, any progress made to date?
Yes. So, with Artemis, we have successfully completed an uncrewed test of Orion with the Space Launch System, which is the rocket that we'll be using for that. And so we've been preparing for our second mission, which is now a crewed mission, and we have I was recently just in Florida and had the opportunity to go over to the vehicle assembly building and see the booster all stacked up, and it's going through its final preparations to get it ready. And Orion is actually just was turned over from Lockheed for the mission itself. It is right now being fueled, and our astronauts will actually, in about probably another month or so, they'll be able to go in with the suits that they're going to actually be using during the mission and get into the spacecraft. That'll be the first time we're able to actually to make that. And then we'll be ready following some additional testing to put the spacecraft with the launch abort system on top of the rocket, roll out to the pad. So we're on track to be able to do that mission. We announced the actual astronauts now, gosh, it seems like it's been a couple of years ago, with Reed Weissman is the commander, Victor Glover is the pilot, Christina Cook is mission specialist, and Jeremy Hansen, Canadian astronaut on the mission. So they have been training. They are very excited about the mission, but now it's getting all of the final integration, all of the preps done, and actually being able to launch them from the Kennedy Space Center in early next year.
Okay, one of our charters for the organization is that we must ask some critical questions. Mm-hmm. We must ask, are we on track to realize our visions for exploration? Are we making progress? And in your view, are we on the right path? And then the follow-on question would be, when? We often hear that question, when will we set foot on Mars, right? So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so, I was thinking about it on my way over here. When I was in what was then the Exploration, Integration, and Science Office at Johnson Space Center in 2016, I remember we were trying to put together what the plans were. How could we get everyone in the community to get on a singular plan? And there was a lot of work done by a lot of people all around the world to get us to the plan and to the path of Moon to Mars. Before that, it used to not necessarily be. But having hey, we're going to figure out what are the things that we can get done at this body that's closer to Earth than this other one. We can lay out what are the technologies, what are the requirements, what are the things that we can do at the moon that will help us to be ready for Mars as we mature the technologies that we need for Mars, the power systems, the propulsion systems. What are the capabilities that we don't currently have that we can test out at the moon and then go on to Mars? So I think that the path that we're on, I'm not going to steal Jake's thunder, but putting together an architecture that identifies these are the steps that we need to take. And it's not looking at it just from the human side, from the vehicle side, from the science side, from what are the new techs, but actually rolling all of that together. And so what we've been able to do is we rolled out the Artemis architecture, Moon to Mars architecture, and so we've been each year internally getting together and saying, okay, what are the progress? What are the milestones that we've actually met? But also meeting with industry, meeting with academia, meeting with our international partners on a once-a-year cadence and checking back in and saying, what are the things that we might need to tweak? What are the things that, where have we made the progress? But doing that in an annual cadence so that we are measuring what we're doing.
Thank you for that. It's an exciting time for all of us as we think about those future missions. Last year when NASA visited, NASA shared with us that the missions were upon us. So we've heard that message consistently that we're making progress towards those first steps on Mars. Over our careers, we've seen this evolution, the changing landscape of the workforce across government, across industry. I think back to the rise of new space, which essentially has now become space. Help me understand, from your background, having worked at Johnson Space Center, do we have the right workforce in place to realize the vision for exploration?
Yeah, so in terms of, to me, the vision for exploration is inclusive of our industry, again, of our international partners, our academic partners. It's inclusive of how we do things. So doing some of the activities in a purely commercial aspect. Some of the activities where we're investing in. So again, if you think about the missions that we've been doing to the moon, the commercial lunar payload services, where NASA is investing, but then the companies are actually going out and they're getting other investments, other people that want to go to the moon, that are wanting to do things that are separate and different from what NASA's doing. And partnering together. So the workforce that it takes to do that within the government, we need to have people that are able to look at doing hands-on technology. We need to have scientists that are putting together new research, but we also need to have people that have the ability to identify innovative ways of doing things and to say, okay, NASA doesn't need to do this. Someone else can do this. How do I empower that? We call that being a catalyst. How do we have people that can be a catalyst as well as people that are doing hands-on work? Ultimately, what we're trying to do is build a workforce that has, I would say, the technology, the scientific knowledge, but also a workforce that is willing to think outside of the box of how we can do these things. So I think it's important for all of us to work together on ensuring that we have, the workforce that we need. If you think about where we are today versus where we were 10 years ago, I think that the skills that we have internal to NASA, as well as the skills that we have external to NASA, have evolved. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we're building a workforce that can actually do that as we move forward. Taking advantage of AI. I know you probably have had a session on that. I've had a session where someone asked, should we be afraid of AI? And it's like, no, AI has evolved. It hasn't been, when we first started working on it back in the early 80s to where it is today, it certainly has evolved. And we as humans evolve, so we have to have our workforce evolve as well.
You gave me so much to work with there, because what I'm hearing you say is that NASA is seriously thinking differently about how business is conducted. About it warranted this, the new contracting vehicles, for example. They warranted a different way of thinking about how we move along this path. When we talk about efficiencies in the federal government, we talk about being a catalyst to spur that innovative spirit. I mean, all of this is really exciting and seems to be a crucial element for those future missions. How do you nurture that innovative spirit and drive within NASA?
Yeah, I think, JR, it's about helping people to understand, the vision. And for me, when I think about the what NASA, what we as a country or we as a world plan to do in space. We do what we're doing because of scientific discovery. It's what we want to discover. And so how we go about doing it is the opportunity. We can, decide that we're going to rest on our laurels and try to continue to do something that we used to do 60 years ago. But we also know that, others will leapfrog us. So then if we don't take advantage of new tech, of new ideas, of new innovations, then we're not going to be the ones that are leading going forward. So I do think that, as a world, it's a great opportunity. If you look at, especially the commercial aspects of space, how much it has grown and is expected to grow. And so, some of it, yes, I would love for us to be doing some things today that we've not yet figured out how to do. How can we get to Mars faster, than having to go for several months? But to me, that's going to really take us, really having a workforce that can think about, yes, we can do that, but we just have to put it out there, and we got to figure out. You
are singing my tune, because from a business background, we were always focused on faster, better, cheaper. Where are there opportunities to improve? How do you inspire greater agility within the organization at an enterprise level? And it sounds like NASA is seriously thinking about these things and taking meaningful actions to help move us along this path.
Yeah.
You actually moved up from Johnson Space Center as center director to assume this role about 3 months ago, right? How has your view of NASA within the agency changed? What have you seen that's different or that might have been surprising coming from that role as center director to this position?
So as a center director, typically you have your portfolio of things that you're responsible for. And so at Johnson, human spaceflight, but we have responsibility for science and for technology as well. And so we work with internationals. However, a lot of the evolutions that we've had within NASA has happened in the human side. The work that we've done with commercial cargo, with helping others that have developed their own vehicles that we now pay them as a service to provide cargo back and forth to the International Space Station. We've done that with commercial crew. We've had with SpaceX and with Boeing on the commercial crew side. We've also been working with the Science Mission Directorate on the commercial lunar payload services. We've actually been running that program for them, executing that from Johnson. So a lot of the evolutions and things that we've been working on, I've seen that from the center level, but from a across the agency, how do we instill that? How do we have that happen through our cross directorates? And so seeing that from that perspective, and then also from my standpoint, I've been actually, I'm a nerd at heart. And so I've been learning a lot. I've been learning about all of the great things that we're doing in terms of like helping with like firefighters, forest fires, using our assets that we have for space to help with that. How do we use drone technology to help with the fires that we've been having across the United States? It's been fascinating to me. So expansive, and NASA, when you tell people, space is large, space is, and they go, of course it is, but when you're looking at all of the science missions, it's discoveries that happen every single day across NASA. It's phenomenal.
You just hit on something really significant. You speak about the vision, and you speak about value in so many aspects, value to the nation, value to the taxpayer. So thank you, NASA, for all that you're doing that has helped to improve life for us here on Earth. And we are certain that that same benefit will extend throughout this journey as we return to Moon and then on to Mars.
Right. Well, NASA, and I want to make sure that everybody is clear. Yes, there's the 17,000 civil servants, but there's all of our industry representatives. There's all of academia. I mean, there's a lot of people that are a part of NASA. When I meet people and they ask me, oh, how can I get a job at NASA? And I said, well, the government isn't hiring, but guess what? This company is hiring. This company is hiring. We're all a part of NASA. I think it's more of an ideal.
Yeah, that raises another question. As we think about the evolving landscape of the workforce, do you see that changing across government, across private sector in the out years?
Well, the only thing I would say, I think they're going to be the fundamental basics that we're going to always need to have, right? But I do think as we, learn and have use of different technologies, there may be, for example, I would say, maybe 10 years ago, we didn't maybe have as much of an emphasis, probably should have, on cyber, right? But now, of course, everybody understands that value, right? And so now there's more emphasis, more going into that. Likewise, I believe that it's in terms of the skills that we need for the acquisitions, right? And so making sure that we have people that are prepared to actually have the ability to help us to acquire things. It's more important.
I'm also reminded, as you talk about, the evolving landscape of these new technologies that are coming online for young people who are watching. There were certain things that fascinated me when I was young about, space exploration, about the great possibilities. What inspired you to even consider a career in space?
So for me, JR, I grew up in South Carolina. There was no space, center nearby, but I did have Star Trek.
Okay, yes.
And
a lot of Trekkies in the audience,
yes.
right?
and that's what inspired me. Yeah. And what I loved about it was, beam me up, Scotty, and just you could I could imagine that was possible. Yeah. And so I think for most of us, it was something like that just kind of sparked the idea that we could do something.
Like the holodeck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we are so grateful that you joined us today for this really timely conversation. As you see, this is the inaugural Humans to Moon and Mars Summit.
Yes.
So we're very much emphasizing the link that exists between the work that we're doing now to send humans back to the moon and how that folds into that exploration vision for Mars. So thank you, NASA, for all that you're doing to lead us forward, and thank you for all the great work and the discoveries that are happening. Before we conclude today, I did have one final question I wanted to ask. If you don't mind, what is some advice you would offer to our audience? What are the key takeaways that you'd like us to have about these plans for Moon and Mars exploration, and how can we, as a community, help to enable, to accelerate that path going forward?
Yeah, what I would say is kind of like as I mentioned, years ago when this was just human to Mars, that was the summit when it first started, but now with it being Moon and Mars, and it takes all of us to give our ideas. And so there's different ways to be able to do that. Like, the academies has studies, members, there's probably members of the academy here, being a part of those studies, giving your input to like the league and to the impact, and making sure that you're getting your thoughts in. As I mentioned, when we have those Artemis workshops, we go to industry, we go to academia, we want feedback. We want you to give us what your thoughts are. But also, just together, the ideas, putting together, hey, here's an idea of how we can do something differently. And submitting these ideas, unsolicited proposals, will be, I feel, very welcomed. Because, there's many very smart people that have ideas that they probably want to put forth. And so I would say to anyone, encourage you to bring them forward, and let's talk about them. Let's figure out, because we need the best and the brightest. I know you had a panel earlier that talked about, are we in a space race, and should we be in a space race, and all these different questions that we have. I think it's about us being in a race for humanity. And so everybody should be thinking about what we can each contribute to helping us to win the race, but winning it for all of humanity.
Thank you. That was a powerful closing comment. That inspires me in this moment to as we think about all of the deals that are taking place. This is an environment of negotiations. Now seems to be the time for folks to step forward with their best and brightest ideas, right? So it seems to be a moment of great opportunity. So thank you so much for reminding all of us that in this moment to not be shy about offering those visionary thoughts and ideas that will help to advance our exploration goals. So, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us to perhaps encourage young people who are considering future careers in aerospace?
I would say, now is an exciting time to be in aerospace. It's an exciting time to take advantage of aerospace. Not all of the things that we're doing may necessarily seem like they have a benefit external, but they do. And so helping our young people to know that there's definitely room for all different ways to contribute. I jokingly one time I was talking with someone and I was telling them about all of the different careers, everything from, at least and especially in human spaceflight, I mean, we need to have doctors, we need nurses, we need, pharmacists. There's lots of different careers. All of the careers that apply here on Earth, there's a role in space. And so as we go forward, think about, what that looks like and how you can contribute and be a part of that. And just know that, this, what we're building in terms of, we've been working on commercialization of space at the Johnson Space Center. And so, how do we help with the commercialization of low Earth orbit? and the things that you can do in low Earth orbit that you would not necessarily want to do when you go to the moon or go to Mars. But helping people to understand the opportunities that are available in terms of businesses. If you could actually be an entrepreneur, what would you want to do in space? And that excites people as well.
That commercialization you talk about, how is that defined within NASA? What does that commercialization look like?
So again, it's about meeting NASA's objectives, right? But if you can have someone spend or invest and they build something that NASA could also use, but they can use it for another purpose, then that meets both of our objectives. And so helping others to figure out ways of being able to do that. We also know that from a exploration standpoint, as I mentioned, we're using the International Space Station for those purposes today. We will want to do that on a platform that is closer to home, that you can get to within 6 hours. And so helping people to think about what would you want to do on that platform. But that's a part of NASA's role. And it's always been a part of NASA's role since NASA was formed, was to explore, but to also to do that for economic purposes here on Earth.
So now you hit on another topic, since you brought it up, this idea that space can be an economic engine for growth, right? Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank NASA again, because a lot of the work that's been done has spurred innovations in many different sectors. So we expect that will continue going into these future missions, right?
Oh, absolutely, okay. Absolutely. I think that if you ask most of the entrepreneurs that are looking at, what are they going to be doing, on the moon, they're not doing it just for the purposes of going. They're doing it to figure out how they can make a market, how they can figure out, so you have people now that are trying to figure out how can they be the first to, if you're going to have infrastructure, how can I be the power supplier? How can I be the one that's providing the communications? They're thinking about it from that standpoint, yes. So
you've heard it here, that NASA welcomes those big innovative ideas, that welcomes Absolutely. That entrepreneurial spirit. Would that be a proper assessment?
Oh, absolutely, okay. Absolutely.
Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a delightful conversation. We thank you for your leadership, and we salute the entire workforce of NASA for all that you're doing to help move us along this path, returning to the moon and then on to Mars.
Oh, no, but thank you. And thank you for everyone that's here, for what you're doing for our Moon and Mars Summit. We really look forward to, the conversations. And Jake is going to be coming up very shortly, and he's going to be talking to you more about some of the plans as well. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you.